All right, welcome to another Ember Weekend. I'm Jonathan Jackson.
And I'm Chase McCarthy.
And we are here to talk about Ember newsy things and stuff. How you doing, Chase?
Doing good.
How's the old recording not from the office treating you?
Oh, great. I mean, didn't have to deal with the air show traffic today. That was great.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild. The Blue Angels, man. Wow.
Yeah, if you hear
awesome.
As we're recording, like that's what it is.
Yep. So anyways, we got a lot to cover today, so let's just dive in. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about, man, is that the way I always introduce new sections? It's always like the first thing we're going to talk about.
Yes, that is how you always intro them.
All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is a thing that we've actually covered before. We covered this a while ago. Jeffrey Biles, who we saw out in Austin for Keep Ruby Weird, which is really fun. He has made the Build Pac-Man book free to read, so you can go and download that. I remember talking about it. I think it's really well written. It's kind of fun. It talks about it's like I don't remember the acronym, but it's basically talking about a real life Pac-Man. So it's pretty great, and it goes through basically how you can design your own Pac-Man game. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, he was explaining to somebody because he gave a lightning talk at Keep Ruby Weird, and he was explaining to somebody the story of what he was gonna cover, and like how it was like this apocalyptic future with these pills that you had to go find underground and like burrow through with these tools. And then he goes, yeah, it's and he says the acronym, I can't remember what it was, and he's like, it's Pac-Man, and the guy's like, oh, like it was like the way that if you read the book, the alien invasion or whatever that it's talking about is like, it's super dark. It's like a dark version of Pac-Man. So it's actually worth reading just for entertainment.
Yeah, totally. And while you're at it, you get to build your own Pac-Man game in Ember, which is really cool. So be sure to check that out. Like I said, it's free. We're going to put a link to the Build Pac-Man site, or at least page that Jeffrey has up, and you should check it out.
The next thing we're going to talk about is some Ember math helpers for people who are not so great with the maths. This is a add-on by Robert Wagner. You might be asking, like, why would I want to do math in my Ember templates? And I actually have run into this case where I needed them specifically for things like charts and like, what is it, Ember sparkles and things like that, where you define these kind of like little functions in line to say whenever value comes in, this is how you get the actual value you're going to render. And so you end up using a lot of math inside of graphs, and you don't necessarily want to, put that all in your component or have to define even a component if you don't have to.
Definitely. I've run into this with some other things too, like when you need counters and stuff. Sometimes it's nice to just be able to very quickly write something like add this or do that.
Yeah. Rounding a number is actually really useful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's a lot of really good applications for this, so I think it's nice. It's also kind of driving the whole let's have Lisp in our templates thing a little bit, which is pretty cool. So I mean, obviously, I'm for that. We've talked about that a little bit in the past, but this is a really cool one. It seems pretty fully fledged. There are like a lot of the different helpers that are in this. So I think it could be useful. Like Chase was saying, it's going to be perfect for like something like Ember Sparkles. But you can divide, you can do min maxes, powers, which is cool, and some other things. I wonder though. So some of these helpers could perform double duty as like a concat, ostensibly because of they're delegating directly to JavaScript operators underneath the hood. So like add could add two strings together. And some things like that. So you could probably trip yourself up just like you could trip yourself up in JavaScript land, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll see some blog posts about how this helper has really weird behavior and what happens when you add an undefined to a string.
Yeah, and you show that compatibility table where the equality table with things being equal on either side, and it's like a checkerboard. But yeah, this is great. So check it out. It's called Ember Math Helpers. Once again, we're going to put a link to it in the show notes. So click away and let us know what you think. And the next thing we're going to talk about is a blog post by David Tang. And this talks about how you can do relationship updating and manipulation with ember-data. And I thought the most interesting part of this was that you can actually pass to save a thing called adapter options, which actually gets sent to your adapter and the snapshot argument. So you can actually give information saying like, hey, I want you to do this specific thing for this model when you actually invoke the save and trigger different adapter behavior. So you can kind of override or customize the behavior of the save to do more work. So that was something that I didn't know you could do, and it's super neat. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and there's also a whole other section about like the URLs that need to exist on like a legit JSON API server or an API. So the example we gave was like article/ID, and you want to update the relationships of some tags associated with that. So you have to now on your server be able to handle articles / the ID of that article / relationship / tags, and then you can just give a collection of tags to that. And it's like, I didn't implement that on Ember Weekend's API, so it's like we're definitely not like fully spec compliant. And it's interesting to see how many different things you have to be able to handle to create like an actual JSON API.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely eye-opening. We've run into a couple of scenarios where, if we were fully in spec, we'd be able to do some really neat things. So figuring out that JSON API spec and really investigating is, I think, really valuable thing to do, especially in the Ember space, because the default adapter being JSON API. Speaking of that, David Tang also has a book called Ember-data in the Wild, which I haven't read yet, so we'll hopefully do a little spot on this in the future once I've had a chance to look it over. But if it's anything like this blog post, I suspect there's a lot of really interesting information here, so maybe check that out, and we can talk about that in the future.
And the last thing we're going to talk about is another blog post on Ember Map, this one by Sam Selikov, and it's talking about sticky chat boxes, specifically like when you scroll to the bottom of something and you have like whatever new content coming in. This doesn't necessarily need to work just for a chat box. Maybe it's log messages or something. But basically, when you scroll down, you now want to always be locked to the bottom so that it's constantly scrolling. But then you kind of scroll back up to see the content above. It doesn't like pop you down to the bottom just because a new thing came in. This would be good if you wanted to build like a terminal emulator or something in a browser too. And he goes over two kind of ways to do this. And does kind of pro cons of like why one way might be better than the other. Not necessarily picking a winner, but just saying here's pro cons to each approach.
Yeah, and he leverages, in the first approach, he leverages the Ember in viewport add-on, which we've covered before. It's from Dockyard. It's been around for quite some time now, actually. But it's a really cool way to where basically as soon as this helper is in the viewport, it allows you to trigger actions. So you can basically set things and whatever. And he's able to leverage that to create the sticky chat box. And then he contrasts that to a different methodology, which is basically checking the scroll position. But in the blog post, Sam mentions that Luke Melia brought up that these checking of the scroll position can be very costly. So it's a really interesting. I really liked the thoroughness of showing both pathways and why you might choose one over the other. And I liked as soon as I saw the first one, I was like, oh, this is much cleaner, but it's probably going to have some performance implications. I was thinking the exact inverse. I thought that the in viewport thing would be more costly, but it turns out it's considerably less costly.
Yeah, and then the downside that he brings up is that doing the in viewport way works fine until you need to actually have some indication that you are scrolled to the bottom. You won't get that until you actually insert a new message for reasons that are kind of weird. You have to read the blog post to figure it out.
Yeah, but like most of these blog posts from Ember Map, it's really good. It's very well written, and I like some of the examples he gives of it are really clear, like little GIFs that basically just show you kind of like what is the expected behavior and what's going on. One of them is actually a Twitch screenshot from an Overwatch stream. So there's some Overwatch stuff. Someone's playing McCree, which well done. It's no Hanzo or anything, whatever, but. Seriously, I know that Hanzo's the worst character in the game. Anyways, it's a really great blog post, so check it out. And we'll make sure to link to it. Thanks for listening to Ember Weekend. Thanks for sticking with us through the end. Yeah, if you want to follow along, you can follow us at Ember Weekend, all one word, on Twitter, or on our RSS feed at emberweekend.com/feed.xml.
So we always say like, thanks for sticking with us to the end, as if it like got like really hard in the end. And
yeah.
Just like, they wanted to leave, but they stuck with it.
But they're like, no, man, we gotta stick through the end.
This is not really that interesting, but I'm gonna do it so I can check off the box.
I get to mark it as listened to.
Yeah, my podcast reader won't show it as listened to if I don't.
Yeah.
If I don't actually wait till the end.
I think I really appreciate it. Anyways, I'm Jonathan Jackson,
and I'm Chase McCarthy,
and we will see you next week for episode 81.